With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seabird.
Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is a place where I or any one of my guests that might be other combat vets, sponsors, supporters, volunteers, we get to kind of share our stories, our experiences, our life's transitions, things of that nature, problems, maybe some solutions, or at least something that might be relatable to the combat vet, to you, the public, that maybe wants to better understand some of the situations that go on, or even some of the solutions that are out there, or resources or support systems that are in play. Hey, this is coming from you. This is coming to you from sitchradio.com, who manages my podcast. This is Combat Vet Vision. Sitchradio.com got me going on this some time ago. It's been a great situation. I used to do it in a studio, used to have to do all these different things. And now it's simple. It's on the computer. It allows my guests to pop on from wherever they're at, from anywhere in the world. And it allows for this to be a really cool, functional kind of statement. But something today I just wanted to reflect on, and this is something I wanted to do way back at the beginning of the year, but I kind of wanted to reflect on 2022 and some of the situations, some of the things that we went through, some of the things that are behind the scenes that you don't always get to see. I'm gonna touch basis on a couple a couple little things. One, I want to talk about Mission Alliance. I Before I go into that, everything that I usually talk about kind of revolves around Warrior Built Foundation, which is vocational recreational support for our combat vets. It also evolves around the PTSD Foundation of America, which does an awesome job of helping the guys that are about to fall off of everything that they know in life, whether they're falling down from their combat experience, to getting involved with drugs and alcohol, to just the worst of the worst situation. And then we try to pick them back up and put them back into a place called Camp Hope in Houston, Texas, which allows the guys to go through a 6 to 9 month program, really getting that help and support. It's a faith-based program that allows these guys to hopefully find some functionality in their life to carry them through, as well as getting back involved in the community. And then you have a lot of that organization, the PTSD Foundation of America, with its outreach programs that are doing warrior groups throughout the United States in different areas, hybrid. So these groups are available on a whole bunch of different levels. And I want to say that through the year, they've grown. They've done some incredible things to help guys navigate life and the systems of it. And then even to navigate into Camp Hope for those that really, truly need it. And this is free for the veteran. This is a free program. It's the backbone of allowing me to do some outreach, talk to vets, and then have the backing to be able to support them. And I think that's a huge, huge resource, and something that I have had for years. It's something that I talk about a lot. So when we talk about that, I'm involved with a lot of nonprofit organizations that do some incredible things. And I don't know them all, but I know that I reach out and I touch them for a while. I get to experience them. I get to enjoy them. I get to sometimes partake in them. And just like Gray Team, I just did here in January. That was a really good experience, and a really great organization that does some really cool stuff in Fort Lauderdale area in Florida. And then the Hero program put together for the I just did that, which is a gym opportunity that is a non-cost gym / physical therapy that is called the Hero program. And I did it in Marietta at Dynamic Fitness, and that I had them on to talk about what's going on there. I had Ricky Ortiz on to talk about that. That was a really cool thing that I got to experience. But sometimes I don't have the time to always experience it. So sometimes it's important for the vets that I work with and associate with, and that are my friends, really. I mean, the type of relationships that I want to develop, the type of relationships that I want to develop with sponsor supporters, anybody is a genuine one, something that's really going to matter. Because, yeah, you could say this is a job, and some people might associate it as such. But in all reality, everything that I do is also related to my own therapy, my own ability to help myself either become a better human being, um, better at navigate my own mind, my heart and soul, because I don't have all the answers, but sometimes I think I do. Sometimes I think I'm in the right. Sometimes I think I'm doing the right thing, but that's not always the case. I have a lot to fall back on. I have a lot of my own issues, and I can't, I can't, I can't go around thinking I know it all. But I have to be humble enough to be understanding and supportive to those around me, those in my life, those that I love, those that I care about, those that are friends, however it might be. And so when I meet you, when I really talk to you, I want to have this cool conversation no matter who you are, because life is full of interesting people doing some interesting things. Not all of it's about business, but it tends to be. Um, and so some of those things that I got to work out. So just to talk about some of the cool things, and I don't know about not so cool things, but because I kind of try to travel through life in a positive manner. But there is some things that have caught me by surprise, even overwhelmed me at times. Um, but I will say, there's some really awesome people out there that do some incredible things. They don't always get to experience the inner workings of what this is all about. Combat Vet Vision, Warrior Built, PTSD Foundation of America, um, you name it. These organizations, these nonprofit organizations that are doing stuff, sitchradio.com, who manages this and kind of pushes me in this direction. Brian Colburn, we'll get him on in a little while to talk about some stuff. But his whole deal is he pushed me into this, and that's where I'm at. And I've been doing this for a couple of years now. And the friendships matter. The events that we get to partake in. I also got to go and experience King of the Hammers a little bit this year. Not necessarily King of the Hammers, but I was at the opening uh, get together at High Road, um, and that's a great place if you're traveling up through Yucca Valley. Stop in at High Road. Memorabilia. Uh, it's like a whole meal deal to kind of experience that whole desert scene. And I want to say just a beautiful, phenomenal setup. And Terry Madden, who puts that together, Terry Madden's uh, combat vet and world record holder for the largest flag on the back of a motorcycle, which I got to help do that some years back when we went out into the desert, into some lake bed, and hooked this motorcycle up with this ginormous flag. You can check that out. You can see it on some of my videos when I was at this high road event. So it's getting out to see, and I got to see Terry Madden. He went out, he races King of the Hammers, all these other races, Mint 400, the Baja 1000, 500, you name it, he's doing it. Um, but he had a great band playing, great involvement there. Um, but he built this. He built this high road. He took this old gas station and turned it into a now living um, museum slash club slash really cool breakout point for the race for the King of the Hammers. So you talk about some of those things that we've been doing. Helping vets, that's something I do in a lot of ways. Job opportunities. It's not just me. It's all these organizations, all these people that have been in my life. Um, Tours to the Warrior Built facility, to other cool places. Um, Organizational support. All these different organizations are doing some stuff, and I want to say, a lot of people are having some hard time necessarily doing some things, and that gets me back to the Mission Alliance. Still, I just kind of finished off the whole year study on how veterans dealt with, and we're going to get into that next week, how we dealt with PTSD and during COVID. And that changed up a lot of things because we're so used to isolating alone and doing these different things. Our society had to isolate. Our society had to deal with a lot of turmoil, a lot of masks and different ways of doing business and things like that. Um, so when you talk about that, these organizations that are trying to put some stuff together, like studies or different involvements, they're kind of having a hard time, kind of even Worry Built or some of these places are having a hard time finding the veterans to really be involved. And I want to contribute that to a lot of veterans have gone out. They've gone through their transitions. They're having some difficult times, but they've also had some good times. They've also had some time to kind of reflect on things. And this post traumatic growth has kind of kicked in and pushed a lot of these veterans into job opportunities or life opportunities, or, you know, life gets in the way of a lot of things. And life gets in the way of maybe being able to fully enjoy yourself in some ways. I want to say sometimes Warrior Built has some great opportunities that are enjoyable. They're a lot of work too. So you get to have this full on, I call it a full, I call it a full deployment mission of going out to a field op and conducting a field op with the intent of finishing through this field op. So you go out there with all the gear, but your mission is to make sure that this race car, uh, this class 11 bug that Warrior Built has, uh, it's been destroyed. The Min 400 kind of finished it. It was a really cool wreck, but it was a safe wreck. Luckily, everybody was okay. But at the same time, unfortunately, the bug is in a little bit of a smashed up kind of a position. And so right now it's getting rebuilt. A whole bunch of other things are getting undone. So hopefully they can carry on. So you're going out there to support these. You're going out here to support these different things. And so sometimes it's hard to find enough guys to carry on that mission. But we also have our sponsor supporters, volunteers that come out and they support the mission. And sometimes there's some other combat vets doing some other things that Warrior Built's starting to support. That's what happened at King of the Hammers. Went out and supported some guys. Yokohama hooked up the tires for this cool off-road race vehicle, super capable, and these two guys that wanted to race it. So it just it's about camaraderie, but some of that camaraderie is kind of narrowing down to a very small amount of people that can come together to make that happen. Uh, Not all the time do we have all these guys that are sitting back at home, depressed and dealing with things. A lot of them are moving forward. But Warrior Built's a force multiplier to allow that to happen in that aspect. Same with the PTSD Foundation of America. These groups, and I tell people all the time, they don't always want help; they want support. So it's during this year, I kind of came to the conclusion I'm not going to call it help anymore. I'm going to call it camaraderie, and through camaraderie, the help is going to come. It's saturation of being together and hanging out and doing stuff. So I'm learning a lot. I'm learning how to better navigate even this podcast, doing a lot of things, um, life and adapting to the situations that are given to us, right? Obviously, this whole mass situation right now, it's adapting to the cost of living. Cost of living has gone up incredibly crazy, right? And it's causing people to figure out, where are they going to live? What are they going to want to do? How are they going to want to do it? And sometimes it means moving out of the state of California, just because it's kind of a crazy situation, right? Um, so and then living in civilian life. Civilian life, obviously, I've talked a little bit about this, and for us as combat vets, for me as a combat vet, I came to realize that there's no place in civilian life for combat other than my world, which I live in as a combat vet, helping combat vets. Therapeutic effect through saturation with my buddies and trying to adapt to what is available and trying to navigate that with my injuries in consideration. I have to take a lot into it. I can't do everything that they're doing, but I can participate, help out, do a couple things. So, uh, just to give you an idea, and next week we're going to be talking about, getting back to Mission Alliance's deal, is that we put together this whole year of this study that went through a couple of groups. There's going to be a book, a desktop book that's going to be written on, kind of the results of this and the study questions and how this kind of relates to veterans and what their issues were and how they navigated through some of these things and what worked, what didn't work, the positives, the negatives. We're going to be presenting on the 10th of March. So there's going to be some information out there if anybody wants to get on and participate in that. That's going to work out great. 6th of March, I'm going to be talking about it. Also, just to mention, I got word from a buddy of mine that's a chief warrant officer, retired, training some Ukrainian medics out in Ukraine. There's some opportunities with that, and just some other things like that. So they're going to be trained. I mean, they're training them already, but they, want some combat medical guys that can maybe go and volunteer. That maybe you want to volunteer and do something of that nature. There is some opportunities for that. So you can hit me up on that. We'll talk about it. But hey, let's take a quick message to hear a message from the VA. Appreciate you guys.
Hi, I'm Mike Richmond of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs with this message for veterans. Are you seeking to honor those who have served and sacrificed for their country? Visit the Veterans Legacy Memorial. This digital platform, run by VA's National Cemetery Administration, is dedicated to the memory of nearly 4.5 million veterans interred at VA's national cemeteries, VA's grant-funded tribal, state, and territory cemeteries, and 2 U.S. National Park Service cemeteries. The memorial's interactive features allow people to remember veterans by posting tributes and comments, uploading images, and sharing a veteran's military timeline, achievements, biographical information, historical documents, and more. Over 45,000 submissions have been made to the existing profile pages since the site was launched. That's the Veterans Legacy Memorial. I'm Mike Richmond.
Hey, good stuff. I want to thank the VA for actually selecting my podcast and Francisco Carrera's podcast, the Field Op, to be accepted as a veteran viewed podcast. So it was cool. Much thanks to the VA. Hey, if I want to have Phil Scott on if he's available. Phil Scott, he he's rescuing dogs off the front lines, and wasn't sure if he is on. Brian, is he on? If not, we're gonna have Brian Colburn pop on real quick. Hey, and just to let you know, Phil's with K9 Global Rescue, and but if he's not on this week, he was doing some stuff. He was on my podcast before. He's going to be on talking about the dog rescue off the front lines in Ukraine, and but hey, he'll get on next week. But Brian, hey, thanks a lot. Hey, we'll talk a little bit about Sitch Radio and what it's done for this last year, what it's done for me, what it's done for some of the other programs. And Brian Colburn's about ready. He's also helping another one of our buddies out. He's getting ready to start his podcast. And that's Tom Kennedy, is another good buddy of mine. And Brian's introduced to me, dealing with issues as a combat vet. But he's got his own story, and he's going to be telling some cool stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Going to be working with some of his graphics for it and stuff like that. So, hey, Brian, go ahead, brother. Let's talk about Sitch Radio and what's going on.
Chief, it's good to see you and hear you. For a while I wasn't working your show, and as one of my employees' school schedule changed, you get me and Pacho gets somebody else now. So we kind of flip-flopped. How you been, Chief?
I've been good, but yeah, it's really good to see you. I know we started early today. I know you kind of triple booked yourself. You're trying to get into your groove. We're taking over some stuff and handing some stuff off to your to Joey.
Yeah, Mondays used to be cool. Now they're like frantic. Chief, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I want to go back, and I honestly don't know if I've shared this story with you. I think I have. I got to know you and I got to see you interact with our combat vets at Warrior Built and your work through the PTSD Foundation of America. And dude, I was concerned for you. And we all know talking helps, and it helps cope, and it can help deal. And I really wanted you to do a podcast for that reason, hoping it would turn into an outlet for you, hoping it would turn into a therapeutic process for you. Because, dude, I don't know of a man with more compassion than you do for our combat vets. And I tell people all the time when I'm talking about your show, you have more compassion in your pinky than I do in my body. And I'm proud of what you've done. I'm happy to work with you here at Sitch, and I'm happy to help you get your message and good word out. And you've brought on some awesome guests and some awesome nonprofits doing great things for our vets and combat vets. And I'm proud of what you've been doing, man.
Yeah, I remember when you told me, you're like, "Hey, Chief, you have a story and you need to tell it." You kind of told me like that. It's not words that I normally would use, but I try to remember that you said it in that manner or something really close to it. You're like, "Chief, you have the story and you need to tell it." And the thing about it that really kind of got me was, at first I was like super intimidated, right? You remember me being like, "Whoa, man, I'm not sure about that."
Yep.
But then I found out through this process that, A, it makes me a better speaker. It also helps me, because now I got to carry on a conversation without anybody sometimes, and I'm talking to myself, or when I have my guests. So then I also wanted to have a cool discussion, right? I tried to make it this cool thing. Um, but it's also inspired other guys to get involved in podcasting, right?
Most definitely. We're working with Pacho now. He was a guest on your show. Chief Warrant Officer 3 retired. And this is the strange thing. Tom Kennedy reached out to me when I was more involved with Warrior Built Foundation. I've since stepped away. And I'm like, I don't know what to do for you, but I know you need help. And I hooked him up with you, Chief. And I know you sent somebody up the hill. I told him to get outside, put down everything he was holding, and let's walk and let's talk until help gets there. And I've seen his life get turned around from what you, the PTSD Foundation of America and Warrior Built's done in his life. And it's awesome to see. And we're happy to be working with him to get he started off with a YouTube channel. And I'm like, dude, your stories can impact people and for the positive. And I want to get this out on a podcast. So we're working on developing what he started himself on YouTube into a podcast to help out. And these are 3 veteran hosted podcasts that we're proud to produce here at Sitch Radio. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done to Tom. I actually knew Tom when I was in junior high school, and he went to a different high school than I did. And
That was only 3 years ago, man.
dude, shit, him and a guy named Brian Bell and we were all going to join the Marine Corps, hoorah, hoorah, and they were in a different high school, and they ended up getting different, boot camps than I did, and they went East Coast. I stayed West Coast, and as luck would have it, we were able to meet up again as after we've all gotten out of the Corps. So it's been cool.
Yeah, and Sitch Radio isn't only about the veteran podcast. Talk a little bit about that, Brian. Brian started this podcast thing because it was obviously a cool thing, and it's your niche. You photographer. He taught photography at Warrior Built. I learned a lot more about photography myself through Brian. So there's some really cool things. But you have a lot of you teach the podcasting. You have a whole bunch of other podcasts on here that aren't veteran related, and talk about some of those podcasts that have come and gone or that are still around.
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
Yeah, we produced all 100 episodes for 511, which is a brand I'm sure most of your listeners know. And one of the most impactful pieces where we were kind of hands off, they put together a team to go to New York for the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And they did such a phenomenal job with the video. If you'd like to watch it, go to YouTube, go to 511. It's in a playlist for 9/11, and it's tough for me to watch. I still haven't been able to watch all of it, but one cool thing out of that, one of the gentlemen, and his name's obviously escaping me right now, who was buried in the rubble and trapped for 36 plus hours, was one of the interviews that we recorded and edited. And I took one of my younger employees to sit down and edit this piece of history, in my opinion. She was 1 year old when the towers fell. She learned about 9/11 in a history book in school. And I wanted her to hear this man's story firsthand. So her and I worked together editing it, and it was phenomenal. Other than that, we've worked for Reed Exhibitions, Satcom Direct. We have a few entrepreneurial business type shows in the DIA space, in the recruiting space, in the management space. We run a couple emergency management shows. We're happy to have them on the Sitch Radio platform. Todd DeVoe, who Chief went to core school with.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Todd, another corpsman, good buddy of mine, does this emergency medicine podcast, and phenomenal. He actually introduced me to Brian back in the day. And when I met Brian, man, Brian was like an entrepreneur slash, he was part of Voodoo Tactical, which helps support Warrior Built with a lot of things. So there's some really cool background stuff that happens in this world. And some of those things that really supported our shooting team, to race team, to, gear for this or gear for that. You just never know where that support's going to come from. And Brian Colburn's been a sponsor, supporter, volunteer, and obviously a producer of this podcast and other podcasts. So he's also a job opportunity. Some really cool things. I've learned a lot from you, Brian. Thanks a lot for making this happen. And hey, any final words before we finish it out? I know you're
I
triple
love you,
booked today,
Chief.
so we're gonna.
That's all I got for you. I love you, Chief. You stay
Hey, I
safe.
love you too, brother. And it's just a genuine relationship. I think of Brian as a brother to me, in not only in the military but also in real life, because I just have that kind of like you said, the compassion. Maybe that's really where it's at. So there's a lot I can talk about. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about. I know, crunched in at time, but it's an honor to have the support, the people, the resources, and those that need them, because that's where we're at. I might need these resources. I might need your help and support. And by talking about it, by opening up about it, and that's what I do. Tuesday nights, I run my warrior groups through the PTSD Foundation of America. That's where it's at. It's a hybrid group. It's at the Warrior Built facility, as well as other things. And Warrior Built's doing a lot of things now. They got welding night. They got when you talk about vocational recreational support, they're teaching guys how to weld on I think Thursday nights. Wednesday nights they have a jam session, because they have a studio, and the studio, Warrior Built Studios, is where I was running my podcast out of, under sitchradio.com, and doing all these things. But hey, I'm going to let you guys go for now, but until next week, we'll talk again. This is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy Chief. Lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round, April 2006. Strength and honor. Out.
Never a part of your world, maybe take a little piece of all the